All right. In one period we got started on this one, and the other one we finished it. So, yeah, I'm just going to start at the beginning. We're looking for the vertex of this function. What form is this function currently in? It's currently in standard form, right? So that does not tell us the vertex. What form do we want to find out the vertex? Vertex form, right? Either vertex form or HK form. Same thing, different name. All right, so how are we going to how are we going to convert this into vertex form? We're going to complete the square. So here's my original function, f of x equals negative 2x squared plus 8x minus 9. Now to complete the square, all I care about is these first two terms. But before I do that, I need to make sure that my x squared has a coefficient of 1. I don't know how to complete the square right now without that. I'll learn that in later algebra. So I'm going to pull out that negative 2. I'm going to factor that out of this term and this term. So I'll have f of x equals negative 2 times what? Well, this term will turn into x squared. This term will turn into negative 4x. And I'm going to take my c and I'm going to keep it all the way out here, negative 9. And now I can complete the square. What's half of this squared? Half of it's negative 2. I square that, I get 4. So I'm going to add 4 and subtract 4. But here's the tricky part. I can't move this out of the parentheses, right? This negative 4, because I have to deal with this negative 2. I have to distribute that before I can move it out to sit here with this lonely little 9. So I can do two things at once. I can convert this perfect square trinomial into a square of a binomial first, and then I'm going to deal with this negative 4. So I'll have f of x equals negative 2 times, well, what is this as a binomial squared? Square root of x squared is x, square root of 4 is 2. I need that 2 to be subtracted in order to get a negative 4 in the middle. So I will have x minus 2 squared, because if I square this, I will get that trinomial. But I still have my negative 4 inside the parentheses and my lonely little negative 9 out there. So now I need to multiply this negative 4 times this negative 2 before I can move it out of the parentheses. So let's do that. I'll have f of x equals negative 2 times, well, we know that x minus 2 squared, that part didn't change. But this negative 4 times negative 2 gives me a positive 8 minus 9. Okay? And now I can just simplify. F of x equals negative 2 times x minus 2 squared minus 1. There we go. There's my h, then k. Remember, h is the opposite of what it looks like. So my answer is D. To practice this, you could do BB8. Okay, number 39. I'll tell you, Mrs. Fleischman and I both had the darndest time with this one. I saw a couple of you figured it out because literally, this is the tunnel. It's not a relationship between the height of the tunnel and the width of the tunnel. It's the actual tunnel. So we're talking about a truck 12 feet high. Well, we could have that truck 12 feet high. There's a skinny truck. We could have that truck 12 feet high. We could have that truck 12 feet high. And any larger than that, and it's going to scrape the walls. So how wide is that truck? Yes, they actually mean check the width. That is 8 feet. There's your answer. Yes, it's that literal in this case. I have nothing for you to practice. Okay, number 38. Describe how the graph of this function, that's the parent function, changes after the transformation f of x plus 7 is applied. We haven't done this for a while. When we're saying f of something, we're saying plug this in for x. So when we're saying f of x equals x squared, now we'll have f of x plus 7 equals, well, instead of x, we'll have x plus 7 squared. And now if we convert that into full HK form, well, what is our A? Our A is 1. What is our H? There's the opposite of our H. What is our K? Our K is 0. So that means what are we doing? We're going 7 units to the left. Remember, it's the opposite of that, and we're not going up. So there's our vertex, 7 units left. To practice this transformations, you might look at BB3. 39. Which of the following properly describes the graph of this function? It's HK form, folks. You guys should be able to do this in your sleep, and most of you can, which is good. What are we doing? We have an A of 1/2, right? So that means it's going to be not stretched. It's going to be compressed vertically. It's going to be squished, right? We have an H of not -6, but of 6, right? So it's moving to the right. And we have a K of -10. So it's being translated down. So it definitely can't be C or D. There we go. There's A. Compressed by a factor of 1/2, translated to the right 6 units, and translated down 10 units. BB3 would give you transformations like this. 40. All right, f of x equals g of x, and f of x equals this expression. Well, what could we say about g of x? So it's going to be equivalent to f of x. So we have f of x equals this expression. Basically, what they're asking us to do is, here it is in vertex form. All of our answers are in standard form. They just want us to convert to standard form. So f of x is also equal to, well, what do I have to do first? Order of operations, say I have to square first. So I will have 2 times, well, what is x minus 5 squared? That's going to be a squared, so there's x squared, plus 2ab. It's going to be negative twice negative 5x, so negative 10x, plus b squared, so that's going to be plus 25, plus 3. Make sure these are in the parentheses because I still need to distribute that too. So I have f of x equals 2 times each of these terms, 2 times x squared minus 20x plus 50 plus 3. Simplify, just combine these like terms, f of x, and really I could be calling this g of x, right, because those are equivalent, equals 2x squared minus 20x plus 53. My answer is C. You might want to practice Z8 or Z9 for this. All right. You could also look at your goldenrod trifold, the one where you're converting and you're comparing the different forms, where you're comparing HK form or vertex form, you're comparing standard form, and you're also comparing intercept form. All right, 41. So this one puzzled me for a little bit. Maybe it didn't you guys. Sarah's a cliff diver standing on top of a cliff with a height of 50 feet. So let me draw my picture. There we go. When she dives off, she reaches a height of 30 feet in 2 seconds. So there we go. There's where she's starting, 0, 50, right? And we know that somewhere out 2 seconds, whether it's up here or somewhere down here, she reaches that height. But I don't know what the vertex is. And then finally it clicked that I was approaching this completely wrong because she's a cliff diver. It's not a springboard, right? So is she actually going to go up? Unless she has superhuman legs, no. The graph is going to look more like, there's my cliff, that. She's still starting at 0, 50, but that's also her vertex. Okay, so that's important. That's also her H and K. So now I can figure that somewhere after 2 seconds she's at 30 feet. So there she is at 0 seconds, 50 feet, and after 2 seconds she's only 30 feet above the ground, which I guess would be somewhere up here if I drew this to scale, but I didn't. So now we have everything except for A. We have our HK, we have a point, and we don't have A. So let's write out what we do know. We know that f of t equals A, we don't know that still, t minus 0 squared, so there's my H, plus 50. There's my K. Well, don't I have a point, right? I have this point. After 2 seconds, she's 30 feet high, so I can plug that in. 30 equals A times 2 minus 0 is 2, right? 2 squared plus 50. And now I can solve for A. That's the key to this problem, is to solve for A. 30 equals 4A, so all I did was square 2, I get 4. So 4A plus 50. Subtract 50 from both sides, I get negative 20 equals 4a. Divide both sides by 4, I get negative 5 equals a. Now I can write my function. I have my hk, I have my a. My function is f of t equals negative 5, there's my a, times t minus 0 squared plus 50. My answer is C. I don't have anything for you to practice. You just have to remember, if you see one like this, think about if she's starting here, do you have a vertex? Do you have another point? And then can you solve for A? And yes, if you have a vertex and another point, you can solve for A. All right, last one in this set, number 42. Most of you got this. This is probably one of the easier ones. A rocket shot up in the air. The graph shows the height. Whee! After t seconds after it was shot. At about what height was the rocket after 3 seconds? Well, we just need to look at seconds. 3 seconds. There we go. Boom. And then how long did it take the rocket to come back to the ground? There's that. So there we go. The height after 3 seconds was 30 yards. And it took 12 seconds to come back to the ground. There's our answer. All right. Have a good rest of the day. I will see you guys on Thursday or whenever I see you.